Hi friends, it's so good to see you today. I thought we would start another one of our chapter books. This is the Magic Tree House book number 2. It's the second book in the series. Now remember, the first book was, I think it's over here, Dinosaurs Before Dark. This was the first book and we met Jack and Annie and they traveled to the time of the dinosaurs. In this book, they go back to the Magic Tree House and they go someplace new. So the second book in our series is called The Night at Dawn, and it's still written by Mary Pope Osborne, and it's the second book in our series. So we will see Jack and Annie going on another adventure. Now, this word night is a tricky word. It is referring to this guy right here in his coat of armor. A knight is a medieval soldier. So he was part of an army a very, very long time ago, and he helped keep the kingdom safe. So let's read and find out what happens in this book, The Magic Tree House number 2, The Night Before Dawn. Remember how our other book had this thing called a table of contents? And it showed us all of the different chapters of the book and where we could find them. This book has one too. So this book also has 10 chapters and it has a page number on this side that tells you where to find each chapter, and on this side it tells you what the chapters are called. We're going to read chapter number 1, which is called The Dark Woods, and it's on page number 1. So I'm going to turn and find page number 1. I found it. And look, it says right there, The Dark Woods. Let's find out what happens when Jack and Annie go into the dark woods. The dark woods. Jack couldn't sleep. He put his glasses on. He looked at the clock. 5:30 in the morning? Way too early to get up. Yesterday, so many strange things had happened. Now he was trying to figure them out. He turned on the light and he picked up his notebook. He looked at the list he'd made before going to bed. And here's that picture of Jack. And in that picture, you see the gold medallion. Remember, that's something they found when they were in the time of the dinosaurs in the first book. I wonder what they're gonna do with it. Here's Jack's list. It says, found treehouse in the woods. Found lots of books in it. Pointed to the pteranodon picture in the book. Made a wish. Went to the time of dinosaurs. Pointed to a picture of Frog Creek Woods. Made a wish. Came home to Frog Creek. Jack pushed his glasses into place. Who was going to believe any of this? Not his mom, or his dad, or even his 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Watkins. Only his 7-year-old sister, Annie. She'd gone with him to the time of the dinosaurs. Can't sleep? It was Annie, standing in the doorway. Nope, said Jack. Me either, said Annie. What are you doing? She walked over to Jack and looked at his notebook. She read the list. Aren't you going to write about the gold medal? She asked. You mean the medallion? Said Jack. He picked up his pencil and wrote, found this in the time of the dinosaurs, and drew a picture. Aren't you going to put the letter M on the medal? Said Annie. Medallion, said Jack, not medal, and added the letter M. So here you can see, this is what that looked like in his notebook. He added the words and this circle, and then his sister Annie said to add that letter M. Aren't you going to write about the magic person? Said Annie. We don't know for sure if there is a magic person, said Jack. Well, someone built the treehouse in the woods. Someone put books in it. Someone lost a gold medal in the dinosaur time. Medallion, said Jack for the 3rd time. I'm just writing the facts, the stuff we know for sure. Let's go back to the treehouse right now, said Annie, and find out if the magic person is in it. Are you nuts? Said Jack. The sun's not even up yet. Come on, said Annie. Maybe we can catch them sleeping. I don't think we should, said Jack. He was worried. What if the magic person was mean? What if he or she didn't want kids to know about the treehouse? Well, I'm going, said Annie. Jack looked out his window into the dark gray sky. It was almost dawn. He sighed. Okay, let's get dressed. I'll meet you at the back door. Be quiet. Yay! Whispered Annie. She tiptoed away as quietly as a mouse. Jack put on jeans, a warm sweatshirt, and sneakers. He tossed his notebook and pencil into his backpack, and he crept downstairs. Annie was waiting by the back door. She shined a flashlight in Jack's face. Ta-da! A magic wand, she said. Shh! Don't wake up Mom and Dad, whispered Jack, and turn that flashlight off. We don't want anyone to see us. Annie nodded and turned it off. Then she clipped it onto her belt. They slipped out the door into the cool early morning air. Crickets were chirping. The dog next door barked. Shh! Quiet, Henry, Annie whispered. Henry stopped barking. Animals always seemed to do what Annie said. Let's run, said Jack. They dashed across the dark, wet lawn and didn't stop until they reached the woods. We need the flashlight now, said Jack. Annie took it off her belt and switched it on. Step by step, she and Jack walked between the trees. Jack held his breath. The woods were scary when they were dark. Gotcha, said Annie, shining the flashlight in Jack's face. Jack jumped back, then frowned. Cut it out, he said. Ha! I scared you, said Annie. Jack glared at her. Show me your best glare. Stop pretending, he whispered. This is serious. Okay. Annie shined her flashlight over the tops of the trees. Now what are you doing, said Jack. Looking for the treehouse. The light stopped moving. There it was. The mysterious treehouse. Annie shined her light at the treehouse and then down the tall ladder, all the way to the ground. I'm going up, she said. She gripped the flashlight and began to climb. I wonder what they're going to find up there. Thumbs up if you think, yes, there's going to be a person sleeping in there. Thumbs down if you think, no way, Jose, no one lives in the treehouse. And then wiggle your fingers if you think something else might happen. Oh no, let's find out. Wait, called Jack. What if somebody was in the treehouse? Annie, come back. But she was gone. Jack was alone in the dark. Here is a picture of the treehouse. My fingers are in the way. Down here is Jack, and if you look closely near the top of the ladder, there is Annie and the flashlight. Oh, I wonder what they're going to find. That's the end of chapter 1. Let's read chapter 2. Chapter 2 is on page 10, and it says, Leaving Again. So the title of chapter 2 is Leaving Again. Let's find out what happens. No one's here, Annie shouted down. Jack thought about going home. Then he thought about all the books in the treehouse. He started up the ladder. When he was nearly to the treehouse, he saw a light in the distant sky. Dawn was starting to break. That means the sun was starting to come up. He crawled through a hole in the floor and took off his backpack. It was dark inside the treehouse. Annie was shining her flashlight on the books scattered about. They're still here, she said. She stopped the light on the dinosaur book. It was the same book that had taken them to the time of the dinosaurs. Remember the Tyrannosaurus? Asked Annie. Ooh, Jack shuddered. Of course he remembered. How could anyone forget seeing the real live Tyrannosaurus Rex? The light fell on a book about Pennsylvania. A red silk bookmark stuck out of it. Remember the picture of Frog Creek? Said Annie. Of course, said Jack. That was the picture that had brought them home. There's my favorite, said Annie. The light was shining on a book about knights and castles. There was a blue leather bookmark in it. Annie turned to the page with the bookmark. There was a picture of a knight on a black horse. He was riding toward a castle. Hey, there's a picture here of a knight on a black horse. Except in our picture, Jack and Annie are also on the horse. Oh my goodness, I wonder if that's what's gonna happen next. Annie, close that book, said Jack. I know what you're thinking. What is Annie thinking? Oh, let's find out. Annie pointed to the knight. Don't, Annie. We wish we could see this guy for real, Annie said. No, we don't, shouted Jack. They heard a strange sound. Neigh! It sounded just like a horse neighing. They both went to the window. Annie shined the flashlight down to the ground. Oh no, whispered Jack. A knight, said Annie. A knight in shining armor? Riding a black horse through the Frog Creek woods? Then the wind began to moan. The leaves began to tremble. It was happening again. We're leaving, cried Annie. Get down. The wind moaned louder. The leaves shook harder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes and shivered. The air was damp and cool. The sound of a horse's whinnying came again from below. Neigh! I think we're here, whispered Annie. She was still holding the castle book. Jack peeked out of the window. A huge castle loomed out of the fog. Loomed means it was kind of off in the distance and it was big and giant. It was looking at them. He looked around. The treehouse was in a different oak tree, and down below, a knight on a black horse was riding by. We can't stay here, said Jack. We have to go home and make a plan first. He picked up the book about Pennsylvania. He opened it to the page with the red silk bookmark. He pointed to the photograph of Frog Creek, and he said, I wish... No, said Annie. She yanked the book away from him. Let's stay. I want to visit the castle. You're nuts, said Jack. We have to examine the situation from home. Examine the situation means to look at it and to make a plan. So he wants to learn about what could happen in this new crazy space time period before jumping in. Because remember the last time they saw dinosaurs and then they saw more dinosaurs and then they saw more dinosaurs and they almost got eaten by some of the dinosaurs? Well, Jack is hoping that that doesn't happen. Let's find out if Annie listens. Let's examine it here, said Annie. Come on. He held out his hand. Give it. Annie gave Jack the book. Okay. You can go home. I'm staying. She clipped the flashlight to her belt. Wait, said Jack. I'm going to take a peek. A teeny tiny little peek, she said, and she scooted down the ladder. Ugh, Jack groaned. Okay, she had won. He couldn't leave without her. Besides, he sort of wanted to take a peek himself. He put down the book about Pennsylvania. He dropped the castle book into his backpack and stepped onto the ladder. Then he headed down into the cool, misty air. I want to show you the picture right here. This is a picture of Jack and Annie. The flashlight is shining on the book, and Jack is looking out at the castle that's looming out in the fog. And my friends, that is the end of chapter 2. We will have to wait until next time to see what happens when they get down to the bottom. I'm wondering, will there be a dragon? Do you think they might find a wizard? Are they going to meet the knight? What do you think will happen in chapter 3? We will have to read to find out. I'll see you again soon.